The scream tore through the cafe like a crack of thunder, raw and piercing, halting every conversation mid-sentence. My heart lurched as I snapped my head toward the sound, my phone slipping from my hand onto the table. In the center of the cozy room stood a woman, her face twisted with inexplicable fury, a steaming coffee cup gripped like a grenade in her trembling hand. Across from her, my younger sister, Elise, staggered backward, her chair screeching against the hardwood floor, her arms flailing to shield herself. The woman's voice lashed out, venomous and wild, accusing Elise of something absurd disturbing her peace, radiating bad energy. Before I could react, before anyone could move, she flung the scalding coffee forward. The liquid arced through the air, a dark, shimmering wave that splashed across Elise's shoulder and neck. Her cry of pain stabbed through me, and I was on my feet, the world blurring into a single, urgent need to reach her. The cafe, a warm nook tucked between a record shop and a tiny art gallery, had been our refuge for years. Its scuffed wooden tables, soft jazz humming through the speakers, and the rich aroma of fresh espresso felt like an extension of home. Elise and I came here every weekend, escaping the grind of our lives, wrestling with a soul-sucking office job. Her, Navi, gating the quiet battles of being 16, shy, and perpetually overlooked. She was the dreamer, always lost in novels about far-off worlds and unlikely heroes, her dark curls spilling over the pages. That morning, she'd been engrossed in a book with a silver dragon on the cover, her hazel eyes bright with the thrill of a new chapter. I've been nursing a latte, skimming notifications, keeping one eye on her to make sure she was okay. Elise had a habit of shrinking when the world felt too loud, and I'd made it my job to keep her anchored. The woman, her name, we'd later learn, was Monica, had stormed in like a storm cloud bursting to unleash chaos. She was hard to miss. Late 30s, sharp blonde pixie cut, a designer scarf draped over a crisp blazer, and a scowl that could wilt flowers. Her presence jarred the cafe's calm instantly. She snapped at the barista, a wiry college student named Leo, over the hippie nonsense music and the overpriced menu, her voice carrying like a siren. Leo deflected with a tight smile, but the room tensed, sensing a fuse had been lit. I barely registered her at first, too caught up in my own head, but Elise's posture shifted. She curled inward, her fingers tightening on her book, as if willing herself to vanish. Monica's gaze roamed the cafe, predatory and restless, until it locked onto us. I felt her stare before I saw it, a cold prickle that raised the hairs on my neck. I looked up, meeting her eyes, and saw a flicker of something disdain, maybe, or need to dominate. She tilted her head, studying Elise, who hadn't glanced her way, still absorbed in her story. Monica's lips twisted into a sneer, and she started toward us, her boots clicking with menace against the floor, each step a warning. She stopped at our table, looming over us, arms crossed, coffee cup dangling from one hand like a threat. "What's wrong with her?" she demanded, her voice loud enough to silence nearby chatter. Elise flinched, her book slipping as she looked up, confusion etched on her face. "Excuse me," I said, my tone sharp, protective. Monica leaned closer, her perfume sharp and synthetic, and waved a hand at Elise. "She's got this weird VYB. It's unsettling. Is she okay?" Like in the head. The words landed like a slap. Elise's face flushed, her hands trembling as she clutched her book, her safe haven now a spotlight. Rage flared in my chest, hot and sharp. "She's reading," I said, keeping my voice steady barely. "She's not bothering you. Leave her alone." Monica scoffed, undeterred. "Some of us can feel bad energy, you know? She's creeping everyone out, just sitting there, staring." Elise hadn't looked at anyone, but Monica's words twisted reality into something cruel. Before I could fire back, a voice cut through, calm but firm. "Ma'am, you need to stop." A man stood a few tables away, mid-40s, plain jacket, unremarkable except for the quiet authority in his stance. Beside him, Another man, taller, with a grizzled beard, mirrored his composure. The cafe went still, every eye on them. Monica spun toward them, her sneer faltering. "Who are you?" she snapped, trying to reclaim control. The first man pulled a badge from his pocket, holding it up with practiced ease. "Detective Nathan Cole, off duty. This is Detective Sam Vega. You're harassing these girls. It ends now." The words landed like a hammer. Monica's confidence wavered, but she doubled down. "Harassing? She's the one making me uncomfortable," she said, jabbing a finger at Elise, who looked like she wanted to melt into the floor. Sam stepped closer, his voice colder. "So you confront a kid and insult her in public? That's not how it works." Leo, the barista, nodded subtly, and a few customers murmured agreement. Monica's eyes darted around, finding no allies. Her grip tightened on her cup, her knuckles white, and I saw a flash of something reckless in her face. Then, without warning, she threw the coffee at Elise. Time slowed. The liquid hit Elise's shoulder, soaking her sweater, splashing her neck. She gasped, stumbling back, her chair crashing to the floor. I lunged toward her, heart pounding, as she clutched her neck, her skin already reddening. "Elise, are you okay?" I asked, my voice shaking. Her eyes welled with tears, not just from pain, but from the shock of being attacked for nothing. Nathan and Sam moved instantly. Nathan grabbed Monica's wrist as she tried to retreat, still holding the empty cup. "That's assault," he said, his tone deadly calm. "You're under arrest." Monica's face twisted in disbelief. "It was just coffee," she shouted, jerking her arm, but Nathan held firm, pulling out handcuffs. Sam was on his phone, calling for backup, his eyes fixed on her. The cafe buzzed with tension. Leo rushed over with a wet cloth, pressing it gently to Elise's neck as she winced. A woman nearby, her scarf askew, handed me napkins, whispering, "What is wrong with people?" Elise's breathing hitched, her hands shaking as she clung to me. I peeled back her sweater, revealing angry red patches, and my stomach churned. "It's okay," I lied, brushing her hair back. "You're safe." Paramedics arrived fast, their calm efficiency cutting through the chaos. A young medic with steady hands checked Elise's burns, applying a cold compress. "Superficial, but painful," she said. "Keep it clean, watch for blisters." Elise nodded, tears spilling over, her silence louder than any scream. I stayed close, whispering reassurances, my own anger barely contained. Monica, now cuffed and seated by the counter under Sam's watch, kept talking, her voice shrill. She provoked me. Her VYB was toxic. Nathan ignored her, briefing the uniformed officers who'd arrived. The manager, a soft-spoken woman named Clara, brought fresh drinks and an apology we didn't need but appreciated. "We've got the footage," she said. "The police will have it." "I'm so sorry." Elise stayed quiet as the medics finished, declining a hospital trip but accepting burn cream and instructions. I helped her into her coat, her soaked sweater bagged up. Monica was let out, still arguing, her voice fading as the door closed. Nathan approached before we left, his expression kind but serious. "She's facing assault, disturbance, maybe more," he said, handing me a card. "We'll need statements. Take care of her, and call if you need me." I nodded, gripping the card tightly, and guided Elise outside. The morning air felt too sharp, too normal for what had happened. At home, I tried to make things right. I ordered Elise's favorite takeout, put on a MOVYE, but she barely ate, curling under a blanket, her eyes distant. The burn looked better, but the Real wound was deeper. "I wasn't even looking at her," she whispered hours later, her voice fragile. "I was just there. I sat beside her, fighting tears." "You did nothing wrong," I said. "Some people hurt others to feel big. That's her problem, not yours." She nodded, but I knew it hadn't sunk in. Elise had always felt like she didn't fit, too quiet, too gentle for a world that rewarded boldness. I'd spent years building her up, only for Monica to tear her down in seconds. I stayed up that night, replaying the moment, wishing I'd stopped it somehow. Monday, Nathan called. "We're charging her," he said, his voice steady. Footage is clear, and we've got witnesses, including me and Sam. She's out on bail, but it's serious assault, maybe bodily harm. Can you come give statements? I agreed, glancing at Elise, who was picking at her breakfast, her book untouched. When I told her, she frowned, doubtful. They're really doing something? She asked, like justice was a myth. The precinct was cold, its walls gray and worn. Nathan met us, his calm grounding us as he led us to a small room with a recorder and chipped chairs. Elise hesitated, twisting her sleeve, but spoke clearly, recounting Monica's words, the heat, the shock. I went next, detailing Monica's hostility from the start. Nathan nodded, reassuring us. This is solid, he said. She's not slipping through this. Leah vying. Elise walked taller, a spark of belief in her eyes. She'd been heard, and it mattered. Over the next weeks, we tried rebuilding. Elise went back to school. Her books her armor again, but she was differentless, apologetic, more present. The cafe stayed off limits, an unspoken agreement. The court date came a month later, a chilly morning that felt heavy with purpose. The courtroom was stark, its benches scuffed, the air thick with anticipation. Elise sat beside me, her hands steady, her eyes curious rather than scared. Monica entered, her confidence gone, her face pale under heavy makeup, her suit ill-fitting. Her lawyer, a jittery man with a bad haircut, whispered frantically, but she stared ahead, avoiding us. The judge, a woman with steel-gray hair and sharper eyes, called the case, State of California versus Monica Wells. Charges: assault, attempted bodily harm. Disturbance rang out clearly. Monica's lawyer pleaded not guilty, but his voice wavered. The prosecution was methodical. Unprovoked attack, scalding coffee, witnesses' footage. Nathan testified first, his account unshakable, followed by Leo and a student who'd seen it all. Each voice built an ironclad case. Elise's turn came, and my chest tightened. She looked small but spoke steadily, describing Monica's cruelty, the burn, the humiliation. The lawyer tried to twist it, asking if she'd stared aggressively, but Elise shut him down. I was reading, she said. I didn't see her until she yelled. The judge's pen scratched, and I swelled with pride. Monica's testimony was a disaster. She claimed she'd felt spiritually attacked, her voice trembling with fake tears. It was pathetic, transparent. The medical report detailing Elise's burns crushed her defense. The judge promised a verdict in 2 days. As we left, Monica wouldn't look at us, her mask cracking. 2 days later, the courtroom felt lighter, like it was ready to exhale. The judge didn't hesitate. The court finds Monica Wells guilty of misdemeanor assault and attempted bodily harm, she said, her voice final. Her actions were deliberate and harmful. She is sentenced to 100 hours of community VYC, mandatory anger management, a DULA $5,000 fine, and DULA $2,500 in restitution to the VY Tim. The gavel struck and it was over. Monica sat frozen, her lawyer muttering uselessly. Elise exhaled, her hands unclenching. Outside, under a gray sky, she smiled small but real. I feel lighter, she said, her voice sure. Like I can breathe again. The weeks after were gentler. Elise's scar faded to a faint line, barely noticeable. She started sketching again, filling pages with fierce heroines. We found a new cafe, brighter, safer, where she read without flinching. Monica, we heard, was scrubbing park benches and sorting charity donations. If she learned anything, it didn't matter. She was no longer our story. Justice didn't erase the pain, but it gave Elise something better. Proof she was seen, heard, believed. One night, as she laughed over a book, her voice bright and unburdened, I knew she'd be okay, not because the world had changed, but because she had. Monica had tried to dim her light, but Elise shone brighter for it. And that was enough.